The stakes have just got higher in the battle for who will succeed Zimbabwe's 93-year-old president. Last week, Robert Mugabe fired his deputy. As he spoke, his politically ambitious wife, Grace, was by his side. President Mugabe said Vice President Emmerson Mnangagwa had started consulting witch doctors to find out when I was going to die. The news was delivered to a crowd of supporters from the youth wing of the ruling party ZANU-PF. The youth wing is loyal to Mrs. Mugabe. She's the most prominent face of a faction called G40. But the man pushed aside was honing his political skills when Grace Mugabe was still in high school. Mnangagwa is nicknamed the Crocodile for his ability to survive. He's closely aligned with the military and a veteran of the struggle against British rule. That counts for a lot in Zimbabwe.
Grace Mugabe was probably learning very quickly, but not fast enough. You know, she would lose her temper and she would be screaming at these people. This goes back to 2014 when Joyce Mujuru, who was vice president then, was dumped. And Emmerson Mnangagwa, the guy who was dumped, but is now back, was with that, you know, with Grace. So these are very, very fluid, shifting factional fights going on.
The military's intervention comes as Zimbabwe faces another economic crisis. People sleep outside banks because there's a chronic shortage of currency. They want to be first in line for restricted access to their money. Unemployment is estimated to be between 60% and 90%.
This has created an economic collapse because the last time that Mugabe was really under threat was towards the end of the 1990s. And then the so-called war veterans pushed him into a corner and he said, well, I need your support. Go and get 20% of the land and I'll go for it. And, you know, that created an economic crisis.
As Robert Mugabe has aged, the struggle for his successor has intensified. But all the while, everyone has been careful to publicly show deference to a president who is held in high regard by most Zimbabweans. Grace Mugabe and her G40 faction does not command the same respect. Now that the army has stepped in, that faction may have gambled and lost. Bernard Smith, Al Jazeera.